Please welcome Chief Operating Officer at Qatar Tourism, Berthold Trenkel, and Skift founder and CEO, Rafat Ali.
Okay. All right, folks, thank you for sticking around. How are you all doing? Good, good? Okay, well, please stick around for the rest of the day. We have some great speakers coming. Berthold, thank you for coming. So Berthold, I think you're sitting outside the stadium somewhere. Are you sitting outside any of the stadiums, Berthold?
I wish I'll be tonight again at the stadium, but right now I'm in Lusail, near walking distance to the Lusail Stadium that obviously nowadays everyone knows. 4 weeks ago, no one would have known where Lusail is.
That's true. I said nobody would have known that term at all, but which is incredible. So, well, thank you again. You have such a busy schedule, obviously, and obviously the semifinal last night as well as today as well. But I just wanted to bring you in because obviously what's happening in Qatar, the World Cup has energized this whole region. I'm sitting in Dubai. Dubai is obviously benefiting as well. Saudi is benefiting. All the countries in this region are benefiting. So as you're sitting here, I guess a few days left before the end of the World Cup, what's your assessment on the tourism and how the whole strategy that you are building towards, obviously for years and years, is now playing out live? So what's your sense of what the tourism potential going ahead from here is?
So obviously the World Cup was 12 years in the making, and like you said, a few more days left till the final. But I always had these discussions with the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy that's in charge of the tournament when they kept asking me, so what Qatar Tourism will do? And I kept always telling them, I worry about December 19 when the tournament is over, because then we're back to normal and it's all about tourism. Now, just speaking of the event itself, I've seen a market shift also in the tone and the articles that you can hear about Qatar. That pre-tournament, there was a lot of turmoil, and you probably remember 2 days before the tournament, a bit of a storm in a teacup, when suddenly Budweiser was not allowed inside the stadium anymore, but it all turned out for the better. Actually, not having alcohol in the stadium definitely improved the situation. The atmosphere at the matches is fantastic. And it also showcased one thing. This is probably the first football World Cup that is remarkable for people with children. You see a lot of people coming with their kids, be it on the metro, buses, to the stadium, with their strollers going there. And the atmosphere is very relaxed. It's not aggressive like we sometimes see in other countries when football becomes so hostile between the teams. And it's a fest of celebration. So everything that you're reading now, from at the beginning, was a bit of a drama and all the accusations that kind of been lobbied at the tournament, they're now history. People are celebrating, people see the amazing tournament, people are applauding now that Qatar has done a really good job pulling the tournament off. And like you said, it's a good thing for the Middle East, it's a good thing for the Arab world, and it definitely now puts Qatar on the map. So for us, I always called the FIFA World Cup a springboard for tourism that really now cements where Qatar is, what Qatar has to offer. We'll, of course, hope we're going to see some repeat visits, but I think the big thing is 5 billion eyeballs of the world looking at Qatar and seeing actually a lot of positive news, and people that are going home are completely amazed and blown away what the country has to offer and what this region has to offer.
And so, since you brought up some of these controversies, the visitation numbers, for at least from a media perspective, says you didn't hit the target. But what do you think accounts for that? And two, what does success look like from here onwards?
So we still have a few days to go, and I'm waiting, especially now, Friday, when it's again weekend here in the region, and we're going to get a huge influx from Saudi. Just to put it into perspective, the last weekend, we saw in a single day 50,000 people from Saudi visit, and occupant numbers obviously jumped equally across hotels. And don't forget, there's a lot of extra accommodation that has been put on for the World Cup, whether it's the famous floating hotels, whether it's the additional apartments or even tented accommodation. So let's tally once we're done. Today, just to put it in perspective, apparently we have like 30 planes flying in from Morocco that are landing
Right,
or
of
have
course.
landed. So that's just how crazy people are.
I don't know if you
I
can
have
hear this, but everybody's just applauding just because you said Morocco, because obviously there are a huge number of fans here as well. Obviously, the fact that Saudi did obviously beat Argentina, that helped obviously a lot as well. And then Morocco as a team is obviously carrying everybody's burden here, I guess, in terms of the hopes of this whole region. So I'm sure that's helping as well.
No, no, absolutely it does. So that's the interesting part, that the whole Arab world is rallying now behind Morocco as the Arab country. And you've seen it obviously in the news that like His Highness Sheikh Tamim also has always been out there wearing a scarf for Saudi around his shoulders and the thobe, or now for Morocco with the Morocco flag. And let's see what happens tonight. We might be in for a surprise, and we'll get a final Argentina-Morocco, or we'll get something more traditional Argentina-France.
That's true. So in terms of the tourism strategy, you've built this infrastructure. Now the country is brand new in the sense of like so much new infrastructure is there. How do you exploit it? Exploit is not the right word, but how do you then capitalize on it from a tourism perspective? Many of those stadiums will obviously stay, but then the metro system is built, the roads are built, the accommodation is built, the brand awareness is there. Now what?
So let's first unpack what are all the different elements. Yes, you have the stadiums. Yes, 7 have been built. You have the famous 974 stadium that's been built out of shipping containers, and it's supposedly to get disassembled entirely. And the location is a fantastic location, and there are other plans potentially to leverage that location. Some of the other stadiums will get converted, and there are different concepts under study, whether you could imagine like turning one of the stadiums into kind of a biosphere, jungle environment, because you have already the infrastructure. There are other sports that require stadiums, maybe not always of the size, but don't forget the smaller stadiums. They're only 40,000 plus seats. So we have some plans to convert it to another sport that's very famous here in the region.
You mean cricket? Is that what you're talking about?
That could be in the cards, and that would be interesting because so far we don't have the infrastructure for that, but it would be a fantastic thing because these stadiums, and everyone talked about the cooling systems, they are air conditioned, therefore they can also operate. I wouldn't say maybe in August, but in the other months when it's too hot to normally use it. And I've seen the stadiums operate in September and other months, and it's quite pleasant inside. So it's definitely an advantage that we can use. Don't forget, Qatar, we have many, many other sports events on the cards. So the Asian Football Championship is also playing out. So AFC is coming back next year. And then in 2030, Qatar will be hosting the Asian Games. So that's more the direction of the Olympics, but that's coming to the region here.
Let's play this video. This is the not football campaign that that you guys are coming out with. Can we play the video? So this is a campaign that you're launching now.
No, this campaign actually went live just a few days prior to the World Cup.
Okay.
And anyone living here in the region should have seen it many, many times because it runs in on Bein Sports, which is the broadcaster here in the region. Obviously, we have other football-related channels around the world. And the challenge was the FIFA World Cup, the attention will be under 90 minutes. or if you go extra time, 120 and penalties.
Right.
But everyone will be inside the stadium, and we needed to showcase the destination because Qatar is more. I don't know whether everyone got the tongue-in-cheek here. Andrea Pirlo, ex-Italian football player, also winner of the FIFA World Cup with the Italian team. And obviously Italy didn't qualify, so they're already
Right.
out, but he's having a fun time in Qatar.
Oh,
And
okay,
then
that was the concept.
the twist also, we're pulling the rug under you after the first 2 seconds when you think this is about football.
Right.
It's not, because he's enjoying the country. And the last one, which was actually, I don't want to say it was fully on design, but it was pretty good. Advertising during the World Cup is incredibly expensive. So your
Right.
normal TV formats, which typically would go 30 seconds, means you pay more. This idea and this concept works compressed in 10 seconds. What you just saw was the 15-second version. And we even have a compressed 6 seconds. So it's a fantastic way of stretch your dollar from a marketing, but get your point across.
Get your point
That no
across.
football, no worries, and Qatar is much more than football, and that was the main message.
And also, you're using Beckham as the sports ambassador as well for the country. Talk about the use of celebrities, and this region is now relying heavily on celebrity endorsements as a way to market the country. Talk about your experience so far, and how will you continue that from here on?
So let's talk first about sports sponsorships, etc. So Qatar went through an interesting transition of centralizing all the different agreements and deals that different entities have and moved them to a much more coordinated fashion. So that's one good thing, because everything now is coordinated and the contracts are centralized. With that comes a view on ROI. So take the agreement with David Beckham. That's not an agreement with Qatar Tourism. That's an
Right.
agreement that sits above us and gets utilized by various entities. So we're in some ways the beneficiary that we get David Beckham or access as in number of days for Qatar. And obviously, David is an icon in football, so that was the first idea. He's perfectly positioned as a UK citizen, since the UK is one of the core markets for us to grow.
Right.
And when you look about other entities, it's not that simple to actually utilize effectively someone like David Beckham. We've been getting a fair share of his time, and we will be getting even more of his time going forward. So that's
Very interesting.
one. Otherwise, we don't have an explicit kind of celebrity strategy. We don't push that angle very much. I'm actually much more in favor of storytelling, and later when we'll talk about the next campaign, unlike other destinations that often don't have a story and just try to put beauty shots one after the other, we're trying to showcase something. We try to showcase how Qatar makes you feel, and that
Right.
links then back to the concept of, and it's interesting, you just had the lady from Get Your Guide talking about experiences. We're moving a step beyond. We're talking about how those experiences make you feel, and therefore what you will get away when you visit Qatar, and how it kind of enriches your life if you want.
Well, we only have about 2.5 more minutes left. I have a few more questions. In terms of GCC-wide, Middle East-wide, people moving from one country to the other. Obviously, this happened with this World Cup. From a tourism perspective, I know obviously all of these countries compete with each other, these regions compete with each other. Does it give you hope in terms of, for instance, a GCC-wide visa, for instance, that helps people move through these countries more seamlessly? And in general, more cooperation in terms of marketing, because a lot of the battle from long-haul markets is very much about perception that has to change. And if you come to one country, you should be able to visit multiple countries or multiple regions at least.
So a couple of things. One, perception, I agree. So as every one of us in the region is pushing, we're all tackling similar barriers, particularly around, let's say, safety concerns, which are prevalent in some countries. Second one, when it comes to visas, in Qatar, we are now sitting at 96 visa on arrival countries, which probably puts us at the top. We also have an agreement with Oman, which allows reciprocity. So anyone coming to Oman should be allowed here, etc. So visa normally for Qatar isn't the issue. For me, the strategy is slightly different. We have with Qatar Airways one of the biggest long-haul carriers, which has its connecting hub here in Doha. So Hamad International Airport, which is for good reason rated also the best airport in the world, is something we need to much more actively exploit because we have already all these people flying on Qatar Airways. So dialing up the idea of the stopover and doing that around the particular what we call demand spaces, which is kind of your customer segments, that actually fit Qatar. We're not a huge country where you come and you're going to do a road trip traveling for weeks or anything. We're a small compact destination. So pushing the angle of stopover is much more suited actually to the place that Qatar has. And with all the richness around the museums, the culture, the heritage, everyone now on the planet suddenly knows Souk Waqif. That's an angle we will be pushing much, much more. So expect to see a better leverage of the stopover concept, besides also unlocking other markets. So just an example, January 3rd, we will have our first ever charter flight landing in Qatar. And that comes, of course, from one of the ex-Russian countries, bringing tourists here in winter because, of course, we have the perfect weather in this region. So unlocking many of those things just puts us the first time, I think, on a road where tourism is becoming serious. And like you said, all the investments, and I look mostly at the investments at the hotel side. We've grown in the last few months from around 30,000 keys to approximately 44, 45,000 by January. And we, of course, have an obligation to utilize them, maximize occupancy.
Right.
So there will be a more appetite and aggressive push coming to get more than our fair share from the region. And the World Cup, after all, with now the positive news, definitely will help us in that race for getting more from the tourist market.
All right, Berthold, we're out of time. I know you're busy. Let me ask this one last question. Who are you supporting?
We're split. Tonight, I think I'll be for Morocco because they're the underdog. And
Yes.
from a tourism, it will give me much better numbers. And I wish I would have loved Saudi to go on much, much more because it also would have helped us tremendously. But it's
Tremendously
good.
with more tourists. Yes, of course. All right, thank you, Berthold. Good luck with the...
So that also helps us. I'm sure there are many people inbound right now from Argentina.
Argentina as well, of course. Thank you again. Thank you for your time and see you soon.
Thank you, Rafat.
All right, thanks.